Alright, so you bought a wood chipper, you've done a bunch of chipping with it, and you've got some dull blades. Now, you can sharpen chipper blades 4, 5 times depending on how worn they are, and you really have 3 ways of doing it. The first way, and typically the best way, is to deliver the blades to a professional sharpener. This person probably sharpens chainsaw blades, they probably have a surface grinder to chipper blades, and you're going to drop it off, and they're going to know to match the angle on the blade, and they're going to take a blade back to its perfect sharpen, and you're going to go ahead and use it, and it's going to run just like it was when the blade was new. And that's traditionally the best way to get chipper blades done, by someone that knows what they're doing, and it's also the easiest. It might cost $10 a blade, something like that. The second way that would be to do it is at home. You can buy more expensive tools to sharpen blades. There's some specific tools out there that have a grinding wheel attachment where you draw the blade across it, or the wheel runs across the blade, and you can sharpen the blades semi-professionally yourself. But those machines aren't cheap, and sometimes it's just not cost effective to buy a machine like that if you're only chipping for 3 or 4 Saturdays a year, sort of thing. And the last way to sharpen a blade would be to do it yourself with an angle grinder and a diamond file. So that's what we're going to show you in this video. Is, let's say you're in a province or a state where you're 3 or 4 hours from the nearest blade sharpener, but you want to sharpen blades yourself. You can still do a fairly good job with an angle grinder and a diamond file. Yeah, it's not going to be as good as a professional sharpening blades, but you're going to get it good enough where you can use blades 3 or 4 times over, and the machine's going to run, fairly close to a new set of blades. So we're going to go ahead and show you what I would use for tools, and what procedures I would use to get a good sharp blade. Yeah. Alright, so as far as tools, of course, we got an angle grinder. We just got a regular disc on it here. This is 50 grit. It's what we typically use in the shop, and you could use any type of grit really, but this is a 50 if you're wondering. A ruler, Sharpie marker, a clamp to hold the blade to a table or a work surface, a diamond file. This file here has got a fine and a rough side, so that's what the 2 colors stand for. And then I just got a small piece of wood here, just a test piece, just to get my motion down pat, and of course some safety glasses to keep me safe. So when you look at a blade like this, you can see we got 2 used blades here. Now, if you see this blade here, it's got a bunch of serious nicks and dings out of the side. When the blade is this messed up, it really starts to, be not worthwhile to sharpen this side. But a side like this here, we can easily sharpen to get back. And blades like this are typically always case hardened. Every chipper blade is mostly case hardened, and that means that for the most part, the center of the blade around here is still soft material, and the outsides are all hardened, are a very hardened work surface. And they do that because if you put a large rock in a chipper, they don't want the blade exploding. This way, the inside of the blade is soft, and the outsides are nice and hard for wear resistance. So you can go ahead and you can sharpen this surface back a ways, but eventually if you sharpen it too far, you'll get into the soft part of the blade, and it's not going to hold its sharpness for very long anymore. So that's why we say typically 3 to 4 sharpens per blade before it's losing its hardness, and you're better off getting yourself a new set of blades. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to sharpen this side of the blade right here. Yeah. Now it's very important that when you sharpen a blade, you sharpen it correctly, because if you don't sharpen it correctly, it's going to actually push wood out of the chipper. It's not going to want to pull in branches and sticks when you're chipping. So when we're sharpening this blade, we're only going to ever sharpen this way, and we're going to take this edge. We're going to take this edge back. So we're going to shave this way. Yeah, we are never going to touch the flatness of this top surface here, because if we take this blade here, and for instance, we would take this and we would sharpen this edge down like this, and on this angle to sharpen the leading edge. If we were to radius this tip off, as this catches wood, it's going to actually take the wood, and it's going to not want to grab it. It's going to want to actually maybe push it back out. And I've seen people sharpen blades that way, and the machine just does not work. So typically, the top surface or the front edge never gets touched. We want to always maintain flatness there, and we take this edge back down every time we sharpen it. So you're going to take off maybe 50 thou each time you sharpen it, and the blade's basically going to keep getting shorter this way as you sharpen that angle back and forth. Yeah, so from here, we're gonna just put a piece of wood on the table just to get my motion down pat, and then from there I'll switch to the steel blade to get a nice finish on it with that grind. So we clamp it to the edge of the table, get it nice and secure. It could be a little bit closer to the edge if we really wanted to, just to make sure we got good clearance for our grinder. There we go. So we're nice and secure just like that. And so when we're grinding, we do not, we're gonna have the blade positioned like this on the edge of the table, yeah? And we're gonna be grinding this edge back that way. So when we're grinding, we're never going to be grinding like this. Yeah, because when we're grinding on this edge, it's going to cause the finish to be bumpy. So it's like going like this, and I'm going to slow the speed down here a bit. So if we go like this is going to cause the grinder, if we slow down or speed up, to go like this. Now obviously I've done that excessively, but you can see that if we use the edge, it can cause that to happen. So the way we're going to want to hold the grinder is like this, and stand like this. And we don't want to go in a motion like this. We want to move in a motion like this. So you got to roll your elbows. So there, that is the movement you want when you're sharpening the blade, because you want to match, this angle needs to match that angle. So that's why I use a piece of wood, get the motion down pat. See, it's nice and flat, it's nice and equal, it's nice and straight on the top. That's what we're looking for. So from here, once we got the motion down pat, and if you're doing it for the first time, you might want to try it on several pieces of wood to make sure that you've got the motion down pat. You can switch to steel. So now before I'm going to start grinding on this, I'm going to kind of mark it so that I know where I'm going to be going. So I know I just want to take about maybe 50 thou off, hold it parallel, take my marker, and run a nice line back here. That way when I'm grinding, I can kind of see where I am. If I'm getting closer on this side, I can favor this side to make it equal. And I can also do it on this side too, just to see when I'm done how close I'm getting. So I'm going to try to match that same amount of material taken off. And that might be a little bit much. I don't got to go all the way to the back side of my black line, but I can get about half of that off, and it should be very close to being nicely, just to get the most of those nicks and dents off that blade. So from here, we're going to put it on the edge of the table, take our clamp, so now it's nicely fastened to the work surface, and then we can start grinding again. Remember, you want to roll your wrists back and forth to make sure that you keep the work surface nice and flat and smooth. Yeah, I'm going to put this grinder on full speed again. Most grinders don't have variable speed, these ones do, and we're going to go for it. Alright, so I'm about halfway of where I want to be. Before I go any further, I'm going to check the other side to see where my black line is, just to see if I'm being even on both the top and the bottom side. Alright, so I've checked it. I know I need to bias this side here a little bit more, but overall it's looking pretty good. Alright, so that's pretty much as far as I want to go. Now we're just going to do some very light passes to smooth it up as much as possible. Alright, so we're happy with that. We'll flip it over, work on the other side, and then we can move to our diamond file. Just be careful, this blade will be good and warm by the time we're done with it. So we've got it flipped over, and now we're just going to clean the top up a little. We can see that we're just about to the edge of our black marker line. That's where I want to stop. All my nicks are gone, and so from here we're just going to put the edge of the table, clamp it again. And now it's very important that this surface stays perfectly flat. We do not want to bevel this edge down at all, because that's going to reduce our efficiency. So when I take this across, I'm just taking the burr off very lightly. And that's all I'm doing. The rest will get done by our diamond file. Alright, so we've done all the heavy grinding with our angle grinder. We got a decently smooth surface. All our nicks are taken out, and we're going to take this diamond file over just to smooth things up. And the bluest, on this diamond file, this is the bluest coarse, the red is fine. And typically, I've always used water as a bit of a lubricant to clear things up and to remove some of the shavings. But it doesn't always need to be done with water. Water, I think, is preferable. And so from here, you can just come along it, and you're just going to work on things just to smooth things out and really work on that edge. Just to get any kind of small tooth mark out of that edge left behind from that grinder. Alright, so I've maybe got about 2 or 3 minutes of diamond filing. We got a couple little coarse spots here we'll clean up, and after that I think we're pretty much good to go. So we'll take that blue one across it again, just catch some spots that could use a little bit more work. And then you can touch it up one more time with the fine. And there we go. This side here, pretty much done as far as the heavy filing goes. And from there you can flip it over. And so when you'll start seeing that, you'll start to get a really nice finish on that too. Now you could keep going, but after a certain point you're not really benefiting anything anymore. Flip it over. And we're just filing it basically flat with the top of the blade. We're not going on any kind of angle, we're just running right flat over the top of the blade. Okay, and then when the big burr's off, you can move to the fine side of the file. Keep it nice and wet to wash away all the grindings from your file, and you can just get that edge nice and shiny. Okay, then the last thing you do is just a very slight angle just to get to the edge. So just very lightly, just to touch the edge. And that's all I would do. So from there, give it a good inspection. Have a look at it. And we can tell we have no more chips and dings out of it. It feels nice and sharp, and so for an angle grinder and a hand file, that is much better than it was, and in certain cases that's all it needs to get chipping again. So we can see if we just take a piece of wood, shave it, You can see it very easily digs into the wood, which means that it's just good and sharp again, and that's what you're looking for. So there you have the home style way of sharpening chipper blade. Yeah, you know, this edge is good and sharp. It's nice and straight, and this will chip for quite a while, you know, before it gets dull, depending on, you know, what kind of little rocks, dirt falls to the chipper again. But you know, if you don't have a professional sharpener or specialized tools for it, it can be done with an angle grinder. Will you get the same blade life out of it? No, you will not. But I mean, if you got nothing else or no other options, this is a great way to do it. And you could literally have one side of a blade done in about 10 minutes once you start getting good at it. So it's just very important to understand that if you got a 2-bladed chipper, that you do have a gram scale here, and you are weighing your blades to make sure they're equal weight after you're done sharpening them. And so you're going to want to continuously check that in between, that you don't take too much off for the other one, otherwise the rotor's going to be out of balance. And something I found helps too is to have a spotter. Maybe have a relative or a friend look at your angle while you're grinding to make sure that your angle is good relative to the previously ground angle on here. So, you know, a second perspective from the side can say, hey, tip it up or down to make sure that angle is perfect. So, you know, that's a real easy way to sharpen a chipper blade with no special tools required. And we'll toss this back in a chipper and we'll chip a bunch of wood, and it's going to work just fine. Have a good one.